All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the imho.love show. I'm Lou Angelwolf, and here we are at the Tan Talk Studios in sparkling downtown Clearwater, Florida, broadcasting again here on this October the 16th of 2019. And in the studio with me, it's my partner, Michael Murburg.
Hey, Lou.
How you doing, brother?
Doing good. Seems like yesterday was July.
All except for the fireball of sweat running down the crack of my butt. I'm with you. But and here we are. We finally got a little break in the weather here in Florida. And over here, pushing the buttons and filling in the blanks, it's our producer, Kathy McGuire.
Hello. It's so exciting to see everyone joining us as I'm sitting here in front of the computer and pretending like I'm Lou Angelwolf and commenting on your behalf.
Well, that's okay. You have you're my agent. You're my agent provocateur.
It's very exciting. Welcome to everyone joining us.
Yeah, thanks for Facebook Live. Thanks for tuning in. YouTube Live. And if you're on, we've been very fortunate with the Facebook the last several weeks. Haven't had any major malfunctions, which is great. But if that ever does happen, you can switch over to tantalk1340.com. That's tantalk1340.com. And you can hit the live, and then you'll be on this camera over here on the YouTube feed. And that show is available. And of course, Kathy makes the show available on all of our other platforms after the show, including BitChute, BITCHUTE, BitChute.com, where it's a permanent record. They will not take it off. They will not censor it, regardless of what we say. But we're on terrestrial radio, so we are going to, there's not going to be any harsh language. We're not going to talk about really grotesque things because we do have to keep some sort of public standard. So they say. Anyway, well, welcome to the show, folks. The last several weeks, we've been talking about the psychology of Carl Jung, and Michael has plenty of notes. We're kind of just going to put a little bow on that. We've learned so much about that over the last few weeks, mostly how even though Jung recognized this power, would not give it street cred, we'll put it that way. And but actually everything he was saying, and then maybe that's just part of his brilliance, everything he was saying is coming true and is the reasonable negotiation for all this. And what's kind of the end cap here, Michael? What we got going on?
Well, I'd forgotten where we left off last time, but what I'd like to start with here is and come to a conclusion by the end of the show is Jung writes about the dimensionality of numbers and synchronicity as their own separate, I'm going to call them dimensions at this point in time.
Okay.
And if you're looking forward to what we're doing here, it's basically it's synchronicity as it relates to UFOs, i.e. how ET phones home.
Okay. Wow.
Okay.
Wow, that's great.
So, the first thing that it was the real...
3 lines, $99 a month.
That's right. That's right. You don't even need a phone. But what, and I'll go into it because these are kind of mind-blowing concepts. And after getting through flying saucers and coming into synchronicity, it's even more mind-blowing. But in order to understand flying saucers from a philosophical perspective, you need to understand what synchronicity is.
Okay.
And synchronicity is not synchronous. It's synchronicity. It's not involved. It is involved with time, but not in the way that we would normally conceive of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the first concept that really blew my mind here in putting it all together was that mathematics is an archetype. So mathematics as something that's part of the collective unconscious, that's part of our psychic DNA.
Yes.
And Jung goes into explaining is everything is defined by numbers.
Right.
You can see something, but there's a numerical coefficient, and there are numbers outlining the design, the weight, the dimension, the physical vectors. There's numbers everywhere when you start thinking about it.
Sure. Now,
Even the color palettes are numbers.
Absolutely. Yes. Sure.
Yeah, they're yes, exactly. The resonance and all that.
Absolutely.
It's all numbers.
Wow.
It's all numbers. And what Jung ends up saying is that they exist, but cannot be expressed by an intellectual concept.
Okay.
So they have a separate dimension. They calls it so-ness or thusness. And he uses the same
Thusness. I like that.
And he uses the same expression when he talks about God, but he doesn't mention God anywhere in this. He does mention the Tao, and we'll get to it later. But he says that natural numbers and combination of some have an archetypal significance. For example, my favorite number, 420.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a great number. And there's all kinds of theories of where that's from. The one I like the best is from the Ben and Jerry's ice cream employees. They got off work at 4:15, and then 4:20 they all met in the parking lot. Because apparently it wasn't a drug testing kind of place.
So did they go back and have ice cream afterwards?
Why not? Yeah. I mean, Cherry Garcia can taste no better.
Absolutely.
I don't think.
Sprinkle with hashish. Chug some hash with your Cherry Garcia.
All crunchy and lovey. And just to add to the numeric fortification of this theory, Nikola Tesla said that the numbers, this is for our audience now, you might want to write these numbers down. I've written them down several times, okay? And they're starting to have a presence in my life. Although I am way far from a mathematician, but I can definitely see the synchronicity in these numbers. 369. 369 in any combination, 963, 639, whatever. However you do it, 369. Tesla said the secret of the universe lies in those three numbers. And that is, talk about a, dog watching a magic trick. I'm like, okay, now Tesla, who perished with just all these beautiful thoughts. And of course, after he died, the government came in and just apprehended all of his documentation, all of his work, all of his paperwork, and then it literally just like wiped him off the earth. But yet you see his technology being released year by year, and of course they're trying to make it sound like it's all something new and fresh, but they're just releasing it in little provisions.
Well, it's surprising. 369 from a guy that was never known for engaging in kinky sex.
I can tell you what 371 was, but anyway. So all right, so we have in the thusness, there is a numeric value to all things.
To absolutely everything. And the way I interpret what Jung has said is that numbers exist in a dimension separate and into itself, but can be brought out of this suchness, this subtle, what Lao would say is a subtle realm, to help us.
Okay.
So we grab into this. I mean, how did numbers develop? We have an Arabic number system.
Yes.
But how did the ancient Egyptians, or how did before the modern Arabic number system was invented, what did numbers look like? How did they figure it out? Where did these numbers come from? I mean, we can see that there are three of us here,
right? So
we have to count something. But at what point in time did we start developing complex geometry and math?
Sure.
I mean, what did numbers for the Mayans look like?
Well, and that's why I think, and I'm sure you agree, that these are a divinely imposed element in our world. The ability to mathematically figure things through geometry, trigonometry, that's from like a higher power. And we all have this like special agreed upon value of what these numbers mean, and it's something our society has made an agreement with year after year, century after century. But unlike words, they don't really change that much. They may have a different symbol or representation, but the mathematical qualities of things 300 years ago are still the same today.
Yeah, and you don't change numbers. 3 is always 3 from a conceptual standpoint.
Right.
And you compare this existence separate of itself that we can grab and bring out of this space of nothingness and bring it to our own use. That begins to start shining light on how we are able to bring something out of the collective unconscious, something that's synchronistic, to use to connect the dots, and also to, as a separate matter, to contact with ET. I mean, it's also been said, like, God speaks in numbers, and numbers are the language of the universe. But once again, there are separate existences to mathematics, numbers, and a separate kind of existence to synchronicity as well. So he's comparing the two, is that, we can't see them.
Right.
We don't, they exist somewhere, but we can bring them out of that realm to use as we please and build what we have.
Absolutely. And I'm really just, my mind is just spinning on this now, because one of the books of the Torah, for those of you who want to remember the 5 books of the Torah, there's an easy way to do it. It's General Electric Lights Never Dim. So that's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So there's your little reminder thing. But one of the 5 books of the Torah is the book of Numbers. And within, oh man, I gotta dig back into this. I got exposed to this several years ago, and just my life ran over it. But yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. And because we're also living out some of those numbers from way back then. I mean, there's, I'm more of a believer in cyclical time as opposed to linear time, but still, I mean, their paths are going to cross.
Mm-hmm. Well, I call this section that from Jung is Einstein meets Jung.
Okay.
Because what he ends up saying is that the collective unconscious exists, well, at the quantum level, the collective unconscious is complete within humans, or, like mathematics, is existent everywhere and is the underlying principle of reality.
Run that by me one more time.
Okay. At the quantum level, the collective unconscious is complete within humans, or, like mathematics, is existent everywhere and is the underlying principle of reality.
Whoa.
Dude. Man, wow. That's a lot to comprehend.
Right. So, he's brought us into the quantum level by taking mathematics and explaining it in terms of the psyche. And then here we are with the principle of existential reality. So what we're doing right now is knocking on the door to contact and our ability to communicate with ET. All right. He also says that this principle of reality may be individually or collectively expressed, and Jung posits that can we lower our threshold of consciousness so as to give us, quote, absolute knowledge of future events and simultaneous events happening 5,000 miles away. So he's knocking on the door of PK, precognition, and clairvoyance.
Yes.
And he's saying, if we broach this, if we cross this threshold, is that what we're doing when we know of things in the future? Because there's no way, things happen and we know about them, but can we know about them before they happen? And he starts questioning the whole time-space continuum.
Yeah. Well,
just some light reading.
Yes.
Right in 5 minutes, I've given you 3 concepts.
I know. You got something to think about the rest of your life now.
It's like Rolf, even when you think about it.
Did you bring any Shel Silverstein with you?
Three in a row. I mean,
a little Dr. Seuss, perhaps.
I'm reading the books, and I'm just like a dog drooling in the corner. It's like I need to just draw a diagram, or I'll never figure this out. I mean, just bring me some dog chow. That's all.
Okay. Now, all these factors are a huge factor and a vein of synchronicity itself. It's elemental in its existence.
Right. And when he ends up concluding, not, we got more.
Oh wait,
we got more. It's to the unconscious psyche, space and time are relevant, and the knowledge. Knowledge only finds itself in the space and time continuum, where space is no longer space and time is no longer time.
Bro.
So the psyche suspends space and time. It goes beyond it.
Right.
And it's exactly what you're using for contact.
Yes. That, of course.
And how you end up unwrapping that psyche, and we'll go into that later, is essentially by backing yourself out. That's where we kind of talked last week. We have these, we've destroyed ourselves, and, you're talking about yourself in the window, and there was a young child in there in the room, and you're like, wow. I mean, that was just amazing. Well, that's exactly what we do.
Yeah, his beam of innocence.
And we'll go into this at the second half of the show. But yeah, you have to back yourself out of adulthood,
right,
to get to the point where your psyche was still so very young and pure that it wasn't, all fogged up by this, what the Tao calls, or what Lao-Tzu calls the world of 10,000 things. The
world of 10,000 things.
Right.
Man, I love that.
And
I'll use that the rest of my life.
Oh, yeah. Well, the key point of this, too, is, and we'll get to it in a little bit, is, Jung takes the long trip around the lake in the park.
Yes.
And where he ends up is at the Tao.
Right. Yes.
And just so many people don't read it or are unfamiliar with it, and they really should, because it is basically the playbook for life.
Okay.
This is how consciousness operates. This is how life operates outside of the consciousness. This is how the consciousness connects with the material world, and how the material world reacts to such a consciousness that is acted through in this way.
Wow.
So, and then Tao goes on to, that's a Freudian slip, speaking of Jung. But he also concludes that synchronistic events are the connecting principle of the possibility of parallel realities existing.
Yeah, well, that I don't have any. I've pondered that my whole life, and over the last several years, I've done some meditations and tried some various dream techniques, lucid dreaming and expansive dreaming. And consequently, in those exercises, I met my family in the other dimension. I have a wife and children and adults living in my house over there, and it's as real. When I'm over there, it's as real as it is here, and in and out of it. And I'm sober now. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing any drugs and thinking about this. I'm very sober. This is pre-sleep meditations that I do. I take myself out of the world as much as I possibly can, and I just let it roll. And what I find as I'm entering into this other dimension, I go through this little, I call them Salvador Dali cartoons. They're just the strangest little things, there'll be like a hole open up in the ground, and then, a flower will sprout up, and then it'll turn into fire, and then the smoke comes up and lands in the tree and turns into a salamander. It's just this crazy, and I'm, like I said, and it's very trippy, but I'm not doing anything to instigate it other than letting my GABA receptors receive whatever they want to receive. And it always is a peaceful journey. It's always peaceful. And I don't, and when I come back, it's like, whoa, well, it takes me a second to catch my grip. And I come back and I go, well, that was really something else. That was really more than I was counting on.
Yeah. And how do you explain that in a material world?
Yeah. But apparently there's a mathematical equation that will get you there. There's some sort of mathematical balance with with the energy that I'm putting forth and the energy that's available in another dimension. Somehow those two things meet and become a reality.
You know what's strange is I was reading this week, in it, the writer I was reading said, it was this psychology I've been dealing with. He goes, that in dreams, if you look in a mirror, you can never see yourself.
Oh.
How's that for a strange portal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And that your dreams consist of the people that come into the dreams are people that he says, I don't think there's anything they can really say that's completely conclusive about dreams. But just to kind of conclude the up half of the hour is Jung resolves the high strangeness of synchronistic events through the Tao.
Okay.
And he does an admirable job of explaining. So we can get to that in we can start now if you want.
Well, sure. Well, Synchronicity, okay, which was a fantastic album by the Police many years ago. And if I remember right, I remember the lyrics of some of those songs lending to this psychology. Sting is a very deep cat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was a school teacher at one time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, he knows how to study, I can tell you that.
Absolutely.
He's got, and it's really no wonder that they've had the success that they've had, because he taps into a comfortable part of your psyche.
Well, absolutely. So does Stuart Copeland, though.
Yes.
They both do. Is it Aaron or Stuart?
Stuart
Copeland. Yeah, he also does too. He does these incredible symphonic arrangements and orchestrations.
Aaron Copeland.
Aaron Copeland, yes, for the musician. Anyway, I'll shut up.
I thought Stuart Copeland was the drummer.
I thought Stuart Copeland was the drummer.
Oh, please.
I don't know.
There's Aaron Copeland, but Stuart Copeland also does movie scores and stuff, which is very, very numerical.
And synchronistically speaking, my friend Philomena Munzer from Princeton was Sting's road manager.
How about that?
It is. It's a cyclical world, brother. I'm telling you. Our audience, I want you to throw out your ideas of linear time, because they made notations and they put dates on times, but this is all a cycle. And it's funny, and we've all had this happen to us. You meet somebody that is just so familiar, like, man, I know that face, or man, I know that spirit. It's because you do. It's because time is not linear, and wherever you are on that, let's pretend it's a line. Wherever you are on that line can be moved at any time. It's not carved in stone. Yeah, it's true, man.
And it'd be nice if we had a way to show it up here, but you can actually show these concepts if drawing and putting them up. So we'll have to do that sometime.
Yeah, well, the show's progressing. We'll have green screen soon.
Well, for those who are unfamiliar with the Tao, very, very quickly, the Tao Te Ching. Well, the Tao is an underlying concept. It's an underlying philosophy. It's an underlying entity. It's a creator, and it was ostensibly written about by Lao Tzu in 500 BC. So about 2,500 years.
500 BC.
Yeah, 500 BC.
This is 500 years before Christ.
Yeah, you got to realize that the Chinese learned how to write really, really, really a long time ago. So like 5,000 years ago. Yeah. So they were 2,500 years literate. By the time he was writing, we're barely 2,000 years literate in this society.
Yes.
So he would be like our contemporaries today writing about this stuff in his day and time.
And they sure took their time making symbols for everything.
Yeah, but the thing is,
that would be such a hard language to learn.
Yeah, because their symbols have different interpretations that you have to take out of context.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so you can't understand them, unless it's in context, which is it's like I've been writing on the Tao now for 5 years, and when in doubt, go back to the original text and get the character, and it really is true. You can interpret the character any number of ways, and so it leaves a lot to interpretation, but. There's still some basic things. The Tao has been referred to as providence, as the creator, as meaning, the way, God. And the underlying philosophy is there is in all things a latent rationality that makes all things knowable.
A blatant rationality.
A latent rationality.
Latent rationality.
So you can know everything.
Yeah.
You can. Yeah. I mean, never got that feeling when you like tripped on acid for like the second.
I never did any of that.
Oh man, I'm not going to say you missed the treat, but the same thing happens on mushrooms. You can have the
that's
same.
A little different story.
Yeah, well, the same thing is you have this feeling of ultimate knowledge. A friend of mine did peyote, and he's like, I'm not a Native American, but I did peyote, and then all of a sudden I understood the language of the Navajos that were sitting with me.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of door did that open up?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm still amazed at people that can speak multiple languages. I know Dutch children, when they go to school, they learn like 4 languages in elementary school.
Yeah, because they got to know those languages because you just never know who's going to invade your country.
How to negotiate a non-invading army, exactly.
That's funny. Well, okay. All right. So we're finding that the synchronicity that we all seek and caress has a numeric balance to it. It is provable mathematically in a lot of ways. And the synchronicity, I mean, it exists with or without us, whether you believe in it or not. It is the force of this world that lets it flow as it does. Now, obviously, more peaceful thought and more loving thought is going to have a smoother energy. Where I get is why doesn't this eliminate the bad part of itself?
Well, that's a good question, and we can go to it in more depth at the other side of the hour. But if you let's start with this: is that the psychological principle on which the Tao is based is the pivotal point of existence in which ego and non-ego are no longer opposed.
Say it again.
Is the psychological principle on which the Tao is based is the pivotal point of existence in which ego and non-ego are no longer opposed, i.e., ego is dissolved.
Okay. Yeah.
And once again, that's when you pick up the phone off the receiver and you get ET.
Okay.
The dissolution of ego. We go through the prayer, we go through the meditation.
Sure.
And then it's nothing is about the individual. It's about dissolving everything that's individual to blend yourself into the oneness of creation. Call it exo consciousness, call it unity consciousness, if you're Jesus consciousness, if you're so inclined, but it's all the same thing. You dissolve the ego, and that is literally taking the telephone off the hook and getting ready to call ET.
Wow. And folks, that's deep, bro. And you know what? And it makes sense, because if you look at exaggerated egos, I mean, you can see them. Just turn on your nightly news. You'll see them all, or several of them.
And they're not out there doing CE5 or HICE.
Yeah, they're not even looking for what we're looking for here on the imho.love show. What we're looking for is a peaceful inner being that you can walk with every day inside of yourself. And then on these special occasions when we have the HICE, the human initiated contact experiences, or CE5, the fact that you can strip your ego down to its bare minimum. I don't know if you can ever totally lose it. That would be great if you could, but I don't know where it would leave you in this society. But get rid of enough ego and fill it up with love and innocence. Okay. Now you are ready for divine intervention from a divine intelligence. And they may just give you a little sugar cookie and let you, it may be a lot for you to handle. It would definitely be a lot for me to handle, but it's something that I embrace. And I do know that the universal consciousness is love, and it is innocence. So I'm willing to receive it.
And that comes to the answer. Well, we're at the top of the hour. We'll hit it on the downside.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. So on that note, we have to play some regular news, and we're going to be gone for about 6 minutes. So go relax with a cup of coffee, and we'll be back in about 6 minutes. Thanks for listening to imho.love.
WTAN, Clearwater.
FM 106.1.
WDCF, Dade City.
FM 102.3.
WZHR, Zephyr Hills.
FM 104.3.
The bipartisan passage of a House resolution condemning his move to pull U.S. forces from northern Syria. Correspondent Jerry Bodlander says the measure also made demands of Turkey.
In addition to opposing the president's decision withdrawing U.S. forces from Syria, the House resolution calls on Turkey to end its military offensive against the Kurds and says the White House needs to come up with a, quote, clear and specific plan for the enduring defeat of ISIS.
But defending Trump, a Republican Senator Rand Paul, who believes the president made the right move in Syria, had this to say.
We had been preventing having them talk to Assad. Now they've made an alliance with Assad. And the irony of this is it may end up being the best thing that ever happened to them.
Correspondent Steve Kastenbaum reports negotiations on the United Kingdom's withdrawal from the European Union have reached a critical juncture.
The leaders of France and Germany said that Brexit talks were in the home stretch and they'd like to have a deal presented for endorsement at tomorrow's European Union meeting. The EU's chief Brexit negotiator gave no indication of what to expect. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is legally bound to request another delay if there's no deal by Saturday.
Chicago teachers are set to go on strike after failing to reach a contract deal with the nation's third largest school district. The Chicago Teachers Union said the strike will begin tomorrow. Issues include pay and benefits, class size, and teacher preparation time. Last major teacher strike in Chicago was 2012. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Don't you love that feeling when you've just nailed your look? When someone you barely even know comes up to you and says, "Oh, I love that outfit. Where did you get it?" That's how it feels to use Stitch Fix. They're a personal styling service. Tell them what you love, and they send great clothes for you to try on at home. Stitch Fix is simple. Sign up in just a few minutes. Tell them about the brands you love and the looks that make you feel great. Stitch Fix is convenient. Get everything delivered right to you, so you can try on new styles in the comfort of your own home. Stitch Fix is on your terms and priced to fit your budget. There's no subscription required, ever. Keep what you want and send back anything you don't. So, isn't it time you started nailing your look? Get started today at StitchFix.com. Stitch Fix, personal styling for women, men, and kids. Stitch Fix, personal styling for everybody.
Hey, everybody, this is Pastor Marcia McAllister from Beacon of Hope Ministries. We want you to join us on Sunday afternoons at 3 o'clock on this radio station for our 2-hour show, talking to you about the Word of God, giving you great contemporary music, some lively chat, and just some food for thought. You'll be encouraged to know how very much God loves you and how He has a plan for your life. Join us this coming Sunday at 3 o'clock on Living the Good Life.
Are you a writer, inventor? Do you have questions about your intellectual property rights? Well, tune in every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 11 o'clock for Joy on Paper. Once a month, I will have a special guest, the writer's legal eagle, Bill Larson of Larson & Larson, who can answer your questions. Protect your valuable work. Email me your questions to patsy.radio@gmail.com and then listen in every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. right here on Tampa Bay's Tan Talk Radio Network. That's patsy.radio@gmail.com.
If you would like to become a wholesale buyer of the premium quality longevity product that you hear about right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network for personal service, you can pick up the phone right now and call Lola at 727-441-3311. Again, that's Lola at 727-441-3311. Or for even faster service, log on to tantalkhealth.com. That's tantalkhealth.com. Here's to your health and longevity.
There's only one place on the radio where golfers like you can turn for the best tips, interviews, product reviews, local tournaments, and everything golf talk. The Golf Show, guys.
Hey, join the Golf Show, guys, every Wednesday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. It's not just funny, it's informative, it's celebrities, and it's a lot of applause. It's the Golf Show Guys, Wednesday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
U.S. Reloading Supply salutes our American heritage and the heroes who, through their own personal sacrifice, make this country what it is today. From the veterans of foreign wars to heroes on the home front, from servicemen and women abroad to the police and fire departments and all of our American heroes, we salute you and God bless. That message was courtesy of your good friends at U.S. Reloading Supply at 2383 Tamiami Trail, South in Venice. They are always working to keep our community moving in a positive direction.
This is Patty from Soap This. We are having an amazing event November 2nd and 3rd here in Clearwater, Florida with some of your favorite actors from Young and the Restless. For tickets and pricing, visit soapthis.ticketleap.com. For more info, call 727-210-5143. Again, for tickets, visit soapthis.ticketleap.com.
Don't turn it off now. You need this stuff. Tampa Bay's Tan Talk Radio Network.
All right, everybody, welcome back. imho.love, Lou Angelwolf, Michael Murburg, Kathy McGuire here on the Tan Talk Radio Network. We've been having a great time with this topic of the philosophy of Carl Jung, a very, very famous psychiatrist who actually has a whole branch of psychology that bears his name.
Whole school.
An entire school of thought, absolutely. And now we're starting to enter into the syncretic part of all of this, which makes it all make sense. And then during the week, I posted a couple little things. Why is Johnny so afraid? And, what's actually wrong? And at the end of the show, when we pull up the idea of what makes this world wonderful, we're going to expose a couple things that make it not so wonderful. And, we're not going to end on a sour note, but we're going to end on an awareness note. So we'll go from there.
Do we have a gong?
Yes. I'm going to get a theremin.
It's under the attention. I'll bring my singing bowl next time.
The singing bowl and my theremin.
Yeah, it only sings when it's empty.
Really?
Yeah, there's like Tao in that, because the bowl's only good unless it's empty, because if it's full, you got nothing to put in it.
Have you ever, I have a friend who actually does it, and it's absolutely amazing. All the different bowls is so beautiful.
Oh yeah,
so
over Beth Snyder, our former co-host, has the Om Shop down in Sarasota, and they have a wonderful selection of singing bowls at the Om Shop. That's TheOmshoppe, theomshop.com. You can buy it online, but the best way is to stop in and see the shop itself down there in South Sarasota on Tamiami Trail. But anyway, so all right, we're starting to enter into synchronicity, and the reason everything flows the way it does is because there's been enough positive energy put forth. Things are moving forward, and all these other elements start to attach itself to the synchronicity. But yet the synchronicity, because of its strength and purity, just continues on.
Right. It's an essential part of the universe.
Right.
And notice it's uni verse, meaning all is one.
All is one.
Yeah.
One, yes.
We tend to overlook that universe thing, thinking it's just a word.
Yes.
But the universe is an existential description of how things are.
Yes, it's all one thing, and I'm very happy to be part of all one thing. And the more you release your individuality, and the more you become inclusive in this planet and your existence, I think the happier you're going to be. Because if you leave it up to your ego to decide and define your success or your worth, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot every time. But if you get yourself in a nice, comfortable place with your place in this world as just being part of everything, it takes off a lot of pressure, man. It really, really does. And it gives you a good teachable spirit.
Well, at the other side of the hour, you asked the question. I actually wrote down the answer, and I forgot what the question is. I can't rephrase it.
Okay.
Do you remember what it was?
Why doesn't the synchronistic energy eliminate the negative energy?
Okay. Well, one way to describe that is the creator continues to create like objects, like itself. So we are reflections or part and parcel, as Emerson said, of God. And why? And the energy actually does conquer itself. Although one can never know the entirety of the Tao or really totally understand synchronicity at this point, because it exists in the MoFo zone between complete non-causality, meaning chance, and direct causation. So what Jung is developing as a means of explaining it. And those of us who know the Tao and follow it, or follow the way, understand that every act has significance. And if you understand it enough, you'll understand why there is why Shakespeare put it is why in Hamlet there's providence in the fall of a sparrow. Everything has significance because
providence in the fall of the sparrow.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean,
I like that.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful, but it explains a lot. And even Shakespeare got it, and that's why he wrote about this concept in Hamlet, or at least used it. But because we have free will, and the Tao, I'll explain it in terms of an athlete. The athlete is always trying to test itself, or himself or herself, pushing every single fiber of muscle and lung and cardiovascular system to make a better athlete. Okay, to continue to prove itself, because it's the nature of an athlete, and it's also the nature of the Tao, not to leave things where they are, because its nature is to create.
Constant conditioning
and constant testing, and we are given free will, so that we're given these tests of free will. We can respond to these tests. Something happens, we can get pissed. Okay. It's our free will to be pissed at it, or else we can let it go.
Right.
And not get so attached to our egos, so that by letting it go,
there we go,
we are recognizing the Tao within us.
There we go.
And that's why, people say, why do you post this? Geez, it's, the Tao is also a search for truth.
Yes.
So you search for existential outside truth, external truth, and then you look for the truth within.
Well, you do have to pick up some rocks and look at the underside of rocks sometimes.
Yeah.
Because the negativity and the ugliness and the pain and the greed, that's where it is. It's in the underside of rocks.
Yeah, just don't live there.
Yeah, observe it, learn from it, but move away from it.
Yeah, and for those of you who are trolls, go back to the bridge.
There's goats passing, and you don't even know it.
Well, and something else that Jung brings forth, he said, existence, primal existence in contact between the Tao and ourselves. And this disappears when we start naming and separating things, which is before we started putting names to 10,000 things, the Tao exists. And all of a sudden we want to parse out and taxonomize and name and divide that which is undividable. But the more and more we do that and we separate ourselves, we create unnecessary dichotomies. And we bring ourselves farther and farther away from the Tao, which is when you look at a baby's just there, just completely conscious in its total ability to be conscious. And the baby doesn't know the name of anything. Not yet. Right. And the more it learns in that regard, without the ability to come back to that primal state, the further away it gets from its connection with the Tao.
Isn't that funny that, every parent really believes that they're doing the best that they can with their child by filling it with various forms of information. And I remember my parents loved me to pieces, but they told me a whole lot of stuff that wasn't even close to being true. And they're all forgiven. I mean, I don't hold any grudges like that, but I'm just looking back at my own self-analysis. it's no wonder you believe so many things. And that's why, okay, but part of like, why is little Johnny so sad? Because the people that have the most greed and the least respect for humanity are this like upper echelon of people who are obviously well-heeled financially. And what they do is they control media, they control information, they control mindsets. And a lot of kids have been taught all their life that they ain't much. And there isn't a whole lot that they can do about it. And there's just all this negative feed. And then the television repeats it. You watch these, the TV show. I watched a few episodes of it as Shameless. And I love William H. Macy. He's a fantastic actor. But the reality of it is, after I watched the show for about 6 weeks or 6 episodes, I went, I'm watching a show about people that I desperately try to avoid. These are some trashy, low functioning people. I'm not saying they didn't have good souls or spirits, but I can't fill my head with that lower form of functioning and be entertained about it. It just escapes me. So the reason little Johnny is so sad, because he's confused. He has something inside of him that wants to join the unity, the consciousness, the peace, the love, the Tao, that he wants to, but he's got all this other information that's been heaped upon him since his arrival here on Earth that is contrary to all that, telling him that he is less than, telling him that he needs all these other things to be complete, that he needs money, that he needs a college education, that he needs this, and then he gets enamored with materialism. And that's why little Johnny's so sad, because when you're a little kid and you're looking up that mountain, man, it doesn't look like you're going to make it.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like you're going to make it.
Well, what Jung poignantly brings out and very artfully says, he says, when, in reference to good and bad, he says, when affirmation and negation came into being, then the Tao faded from our consciousness.
One more time.
When affirmation and negation came into being, the Tao faded from our consciousness.
Yes.
So good and bad, the telling, the differentiation, it's splitting things up that don't need to be split up. Things are as they are,
yes.
Not good and bad. They're not negative and positive. They just simply are as they are, and how we how we internalize them is what matters. He also says we lost our connection with. Well, this is mine. I'm sorry. We lost our connection with the forest by focusing on one tree and one blade of grass at a time.
Yes, absolutely. And yes.
That kind of sums up about 5 pages of Jung's writing.
Sure. Nice edit.
Yeah. Another way of looking at it is we lost sight that the whole organism and each one of us as its parts are working for the same purpose. In effect, the unity of being and non-being.
Okay.
But you need to understand non-being is like where the Tao resides. You can't see it. It's the realm of essentially of nothingness, but everything comes from non-being, this area, into being. It's created into a material world.
Yes.
So you have to think outside of your present dimension.
Yes.
So where it is out there, I don't know, but we only have these words to describe it from Lao Tzu. And by recognizing the subtle realm where the Tao sends forth all into being, when we recognize that, okay, that there's a subtle realm out there that where the Tao exists and it creates things into being, that existential, that reality is also the reality that underlies the existence of ET.
Okay.
It's not just for us. This is the fabric of the universe that we're talking about.
Yes.
In as best words that we can. And once you understand that, once you adopt this frame of reference, Jung calls this absolute knowledge. And that absolute knowledge explains synchronicity.
Okay,
because once you understand that that's how things happen, and that's where the causation begins, even though you cannot predict it, it's nonetheless there to such an extent that it's not acausal, it's not chance. And at some point, it's not as easy to prove as my ability to touch this microphone and move it. That's direct causation.
Right.
So synchronicity is somewhere in there. And then there has to be a force involved or an energy involved or a consciousness involved, because that's what changes all the results.
Okay.
And we see that in the pair experiments. We see that in the two slit experiments, when something comes in as a wave and ends up a particle, where results change by the simple presence of a human consciousness there. People are able to manipulate numbers and results simply by thinking about them.
Yes, that's true.
And Jung goes into some great detail saying, hey, this is not conjecture. This is proved by scientific evidence. And he goes through a number of studies that were existing in 1959, saying, to me, this proves that it's not chance, and that although I won't go as far as to say it's direct causation, this realm that I'm talking about is going to be called synchronicity. It's the same thing as the Tao.
Absolutely. And this is a little sentence that just came to me while you were explaining that, is it is a fine craft and a fine science that lets you hold on to all of the things that you have to let go, to appreciate the missing space that was once there, and understanding that it happened exactly the way it was supposed to happen. Your mindset on this, to release and let go and to understand and to trust, is the thing you have to hold on to.
No, it's the realm you step into.
Realm, okay.
You don't have to hold on to any of that.
Okay.
You just recognize what you're doing, and by jettisoning all this crap, then all of a sudden you're lessening your attachments to the world of 10,000 things, and then you walk into the experience of Tao.
Well, Michael, we've been talking about this for years now. When we first started doing the show back when it was Lutopia.com, kind of the little backbone was the pacifist riot. That was kind of like our core, like our I called it our mellow festo. Our mellow festo. And the pacifist riot, it's available on imho.love, lutopia.com. It's a piece that I wrote about 4.5 years ago, and it's kind of carried us through. Now, Michael and we've been talking, and we had a meeting in the studio a couple weeks ago, and we're starting to trend into the pacifist revolution. Okay. And that's what all this is about. You literally can think, and you can pray, and you can meditate, and you can move the world with your thought and idea. And sometimes it's just a fleeting moment. Sometimes it's a big time. But any way you look at it, it's like when people get a hold of me all the time on Facebook, they need prayer. And I do take the time, and I isolate, I focus on that person. Some people come through a lot bigger than others. And I think what it is their level of spirit that's available. But I pray for people's healing every day, and I meditate on everybody that's hurting as a group, as a collective. Sometimes it's easier to get the energy sent out. The energy knows where to go. You don't have to control that. And that's what we say with the pacifist riot, is you pass this good energy on, you pass this prayer on. Your heart is a magnet. We live on a giant magnet. All this energy, all this flow, all this incredible creation that we, move through every day is way more tameable than, big world, little atom. I mean, it's a big thing going on here. And the more you accept your part in the universality, in the oneness of it all, to be part of the most wonderful thing is better than you amplifying yourself to an individual thing, which will surely end. But the universe and the oneness will never end. And it goes through its stages. It shakes people out. And the thing that we know is love wins in the end. It's just the way it goes. There's no, hate and fear can't win.
And it's the love of the Creator, the entity that created us as some would say, in its likeness and image, and that is our spiritual nature. And I know we only have a little bit of time left. But
5 minutes.
5 minutes. The Tao is the macrocosm, and man is the microcosm of the Tao.
Tao is the macrocosm, and man is the microcosm.
Right.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, because we unite the seen and the unseen in ourselves. We unite psyche with our own bodies. It's don't get into the trilogy and the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, but it's the mind, it's the heart, and it's the soul.
Well, yeah, all those things have been re-symbolized over the years,
Right.
And I have some Christian friends that are allergic to the phrase Christ consciousness, like it's too new wave for them. That they're standing right there on their Bible.
Well, let Buddha take the credit then. This isn't I own it kind of thing. you know?
I tell you, there's a comic named Tom Hester that it ended.
Yeah. Keep going.
Okay. All right. Was it coming back?
Keep going.
Okay. All right. That sent me a nice piece on, it's on my Facebook page. You go to Lou Angelwolf. I got a couple spots left for some friends, but, and really what it is, it's several examples of citing the golden rule. So, and the golden rule is treat other people the way you want to be treated and live your life like God is watching, I've had several great days where that has happened. And I've had some days where I was completely selfish and totally out of bounds and way off my own vibration. But this is a lovely world, and it allows you to rebound and it allows you to repair.
Yeah, of course. Any entity that would love you would allow you to do that. And I'll give it my one last shot, and then I'll hand it over to you for the rest of the show. But what Jung teaches us is, number one, everything is connected. Everything matters. Consciousness runs through all things. Call it synchronicity or not. We are the Creator itself, testing itself out and finding our way through synchronicity to causation, which brings us to the CE3, the happenstance of seeing a UFO or ET and HIB, and then bringing it to CE5, where we create that causal connection between our own psyche and the psyches of these higher beings, and we can actually ask them to come into our lives and be present there for us visually, spiritually, and physically in any sort of way that we want and will allow, that won't get us too freaked out. And in the final words here are, realize that the love we send is being received by somebody out there, some entity, something. And that peaceful oneness is how we connect, whether it's human being to human being, whether it's human to animal, or human being to ET and HIB. It's peaceful oneness peaceful oneness that we find in egolessness, dissolving the ego, and the Tao, synchronicity, whatever you want to call it. And that's how we connect.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. So I know a lot of people that listen to the show are on their own journey, and you're so welcome, and we so adore having you. Thank you, everybody that listened on Facebook. We lost the feed there a couple minutes ago. I don't know why, but we did. But this whole thing's running through on YouTube. Like I said, I must have cursed it or something. But the thing that I'm trying to tell you is, when you don't understand things and things just seem way, way, way out of hand, okay, follow the money. Look at the situation, figure out who's getting paid, and then you will find what went wrong and who's taking advantage of what. You're standing on a beautiful riverbank and you look across the riverbank and you see a factory spewing filth into the air, dumping garbage into the river. That automatically tells you that there's something wrong. And if you take a look at whoever's adding to that pollution, there's money at the end of it. And if you don't respect your environment, that means you respect the people around you. And that's the one mindset that there is a controlling mindset way above us that does not think of us as individual human beings, nor do they care about us. We're merely game pieces for them.
And that brings us into the pacifist revolution, is that's got to change, where the individual has to matter once again.
Amen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the imho.love show. I'm Lou Angelwolf. That's Michael Murburg and our producer, Kathy McGuire. We thank you so much for tuning in. We're here every Wednesday night at 7:30, and the show is permanently logged on imho.love and on all our Facebook pages, and we're not hard to find. But thank you so much for tuning in, and we sure do love you. And use your head, trust your gut.
Love and peace, y'all.
Who's your little beachy pie and the cuckoo in the clock when cuckoo